Hi, I'm Micah Clark with the American Family Association of Indiana. Thank you for joining us today on this Friday video. I'm very excited about our guest today. But before I mention him, before I bring him on and introduce him, I want to remind you of a quote that I put in my email 2 weeks ago because it's very appropriate to our discussion today. One of our founding fathers was a man named Gouverneur Morris. He signed the Articles of Confederation. He signed the U.S. Constitution. He actually he wrote the preamble to the U.S. Constitution. He was a U.S. senator and an outspoken opponent of slavery. He said this, he said, "Religion is the solid basis of good morals. Therefore, education should teach the precepts of religion and the duties of man toward God." And that's what our topic is today, in a sense. We have with us Joel Penton with the LifeWise Academy. And Joel, a couple weeks ago, one of your staff members reached out to me to tell me about LifeWise Academy, and right away I knew this was a program I wanted more Hoosiers to know about. This is something very exciting, so why don't you tell our audience, welcome by the way, and tell our audience what is LifeWise Academy?
Yeah, well, thank you, Micah. Thanks for having me on. It's an honor, and I'm excited to tell you about LifeWise. LifeWise provides Bible education to public school students during school hours. What very few people are aware of is that in 1952, the Supreme Court ruled that public school students can be released from school during school hours to receive religious instruction, provided the program meets 3 criteria. Number 1, it has to be off school property. Number 2, privately funded. And number 3, with parental permission. And so we launched a program in 2019 to take advantage of that opportunity. We believe it's the single greatest missed opportunity to reach students with the Word of God. And so we launched a program in 2019, just launched a couple pilot programs, and it has honestly started to blow up. This year we'll be serving more than 300 schools across 11 states.
Wonderful. That's wonderful.
Well, we understand that you're really big in Ohio. What other states are you active in? And are there like certain criteria that you have to, that make it easier for you to work in a state?
Yeah, great question. We are very active in Ohio. That's where we started. And so, a couple hundred of those 300 are in Ohio. But we're also pretty active in Indiana, where you are. That would be our second state, with the most programs. And we have some staff there, and it's really growing quickly. Because of the Supreme Court ruling, it is legal in all 50 states. However, 26 states have laws on the books about released time specifically. That's what the legal term is for what we do, released time religious instruction. And there's a couple things that can make the law even more advantageous, and that is if it uses shall language, as in students shall be released with parental permission, so the school doesn't even really have a say in that case. And there are 8 states in the nation with shall language. And then another addition to some of the laws that is a nice feature is that some of the laws allow for school credit to be awarded to high school students for release time classes. And Ohio and Indiana are 2 of the few states that have that provision as well.
Joel, I wrote about this in my weekly email, and I got several responses from people who were aware of this program in Indiana and certain schools that are doing this. And it was encouraging, but they were very excited about this. What has some of the response been to these programs, or the parents in the communities where you're working?
Well, for the most part, we are seeing an overwhelming response. I mean, when we launched the program and our first 2 pilot programs went well, and by well, I mean over 60% of the entire student body in both of the schools where we launched enrolled the very first year. And we thought that this has gone so well, let's try to serve 25 schools by 2025. That was our goal, 25 by 25. And here we are in 2023, and I just told you we're going to be in over 300 schools this school year. And so the response has been so overwhelming because Christian parents who have their kids in public schools have been wanting this probably their entire lives, right? They want religious instruction. They want Bible education to be a part of their students' lives. And some of them simply don't have the finances to send their kids to a private Christian school or have the the right opportunity to homeschool. And so this is a breath of fresh air, especially with all that parents are seeing going on in schools. It's really a crisis in education right now. And then even the parents that maybe wouldn't even identify as being Christians or maybe don't go to church, they seem to be signing up just as rapidly because there's still a prevailing, at least positive attitude toward the Bible and to biblical morality in this country. That's what we're finding. There is a small minority of people who are vocal, who think the Bible is some sort of, negative influence. But that is a very small minority. Most people think, hey, my kids could use a little Bible in their life, even if they don't find a way to take them to church. And so the response from families and then the changed lives has been overwhelming as well. It's almost daily. We get stories of, here's a family that they're at church now and they're being baptized and they were introduced, through LifeWise Academy. Here's a report from a school that has done a study on the students that go to LifeWise versus the kids that don't. And those who go to LifeWise, their, trips to the principal's office have gone down 60%, just in the course of a year. And so those types of things, with the response has been great.
There's probably a lot of people out there right now going, yeah, sure, we can have our kids get out of class to go to Bible. I'm sure that there's organizations that are going to be working really hard to stop this, and that they don't want any of this happening. Are you running into those two things where people are like, this is too good to be true? Or running into the normal organizations that oppose these types of things coming at you on a regular basis, like say the ACLU, or in our case in Indiana, the ICLU?
Yeah, great question. Well, we certainly get a lot of this. It sounds too good to be true. Although we were getting more of that back in 2018 and 2019 when we were first casting the vision. And I was basically telling people, hey, here's this little known practice. It's been around for 70 years. It hasn't really spread, but we feel like we can crack the code on this, and people are like, okay, whatever. What are the chances? But now that we're getting so much traction, and this next year alone, we're going to be launching in more than 150 new schools across several states. Wow. People are starting to realize, wow, this is really possible. Not only that, it's not just like small rural communities. We are in inner city contexts. We are in the most affluent suburbs. We are in the most impoverished rural towns. I mean, pretty much the spectrum that you can imagine. We're seeing this program be effective. The opposition piece, I'm going to be honest with you, I envisioned there would be a lot more than there has been. I thought there would be more at the school administration level. However, schools understand the crisis that we're in, and they're dealing with a mental health crisis, and they are familiar with the literature that is very clear. When kids have religion in their lives, their mental health improves. And they also see the families that they want to hold on to fleeing the public school for religious schools. And so when we're able to go to them and just print off the law and say, look, you can't get in trouble for this, and it's going to improve your students, it's going to make your class time more valuable. There's a win. It's a win-win all the way around. 90%, and we've been tracking 90% of administrators, when we're able to have that conversation with them, they're becoming supportive. But those organizations that you mentioned, like the ACLU, or for us, the Freedom from Religion Foundation, we have heard from them some. In fact, the Freedom from Religion Foundation, there was one instance where somebody in a community reached out to them, and we have screenshots of some of the communication back and forth that, in fact, these people posted with the Freedom from Religion Foundation, basically saying, I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do because the law is so clear. Wow. We can check to make sure it's off school property, privately funded, and there's parental permission. But if those are in place, it's not really, we can't contest it. And so, we're optimistic.
Many years ago, I had a state representative publish a book, and I don't have it. I was looking for it on my bookshelf here at home. It must be at my office. But it was a book from the 1920s on basic Bible education, and it was printed by the Indiana State Teachers Association in like 1923. So for the first 150 years of our society, this was not that uncommon. And I think we had a lot less social problems than we do then than we do now. And so maybe tell our audience, what types of things does LifeWise Academy teach? I mean, it's non-denominational. It's not, I know that much, but is it character education? Is it profiles in Bible characters, or what types of things are taught in LifeWise Academy?
Yep, wonderful question. LifeWise Academy really teaches the story of the Bible, the gospel, who Jesus is, what Jesus has done, that story revealed throughout all of Scripture, and how the gospel transforms our lives. And so we teach, our curriculum takes students through the entire Bible, Genesis through Revelation. We tend to start at the elementary grade levels, and so typically grades 1 through 5. Over the course of 5 years, we'll start in Genesis, go through the whole Bible, and it has a threefold focus every lesson. So, and that threefold focus is head, heart, hands. And so head, what does the Bible story teach? And so with like lesson number 1, which is about creation, what is the story of creation? What does the Bible say about how the world came to be? And then heart, we connect it to the gospel. How does this story point to the bigger picture of Jesus, of who he is and what he's done? And so in creation, we talk about the world was created through Christ, and the world was created for Christ. He's the firstborn of all creation, the true heir of creation. So we're created by God, yes, and we're created to give glory to Christ. And then hands, if we rightly understand the gospel in that context, how does it transform our character? And so again, the first lesson on creation, if we rightly understand God created the world and everything we have is a gift, then we will be more grateful. We'll live our lives without, pessimism. We'll live it with optimism and gratitude to God for all he's done in our lives. And it's that kind of head, heart, hands that we walk through the entire Bible with a partnership. The Gospel Project is the curriculum that we've licensed, that we have a partnership with.
There's probably a lot of people out there now that are thinking to themselves, I wonder if my school system has this available. Or in the case of where maybe they know they don't have that option, be thinking, how can I get this into my school? What would be a way for them to find out more information, one, about if their school is offering this, and two, what would be the next steps if they were interested, or some of the people in their community were interested in helping to see this happen in their school system?
Yes, I love this question for sure. We've developed a very simple way for, number one, for you to find out if there's already a LifeWise movement in your community, and then number two, if not, how to get it started. We have a very simple 10-step launch process, and you can, right this moment, go to lifewise.org. That's LIFEWISE.org, lifewise.org, and you can click Find Your School and find any school district in the entire nation to see if there's something already happening in your community. And then that 10-step launch process to get things started, it starts by building community interest and developing what we call a community interest list, which is basically a petition. And so the first step is gathering 50 signatures of people in your community who raise their hand to say, yes, we want to have this happen in our community. Even if I'm not going to be a leader, even if I'm not going to be a teacher, I'm just almost casting my vote, right? To say, yes, we want to have this in our community. And so when you go to our website, when you find your school, you can sign the list right there. And then the link where you landed for your school district, you can send that around to others in your community as a video that shows what LifeWise is all about, that talks about release time. And it, of course, has that form so that as you share it on Facebook, text it, email it, people can sign the list. And then when we hit 50 names, we're able to hold a meeting and form a steering committee and all the other steps, but we're off to the races.
That's so exciting. I know there's people listening to this who've never heard about this before, even though in Indiana we've had this law in the books for a long time, but very few schools take advantage of it. There's probably people watching today who this excites, but they may not be able to, like you said, teach. But I know you have a prepackaged curriculum. You obviously have an organization. There's expenses with this. If somebody says, well, I don't know if I can activate in my community, but I'd really like to see this program anywhere in the state or anywhere in the nation. How can they financially help LifeWise Academy to succeed in your mission? How can they donate to you and become a part of LifeWise?
Yeah, thank you for that question, because as you suggest, it is going to get this done. And we are, quite honestly, we're proposing something of a revolution, right? That we want to have Bible education available to every single one of the 50 million public school students in this nation. And it will take a lot of people, a lot of resources, and part of that is financial. And your listeners can go to lifewise.org and click donate, and you can look up a local program to donate to, or you can donate to what we call the Vision Fund. And the Vision Fund is the funds that go toward expanding the message, getting into other communities, spreading the word, and starting new programs from Maine to California.
Wonderful. Is there anything else we need to cover? Anything I've missed that might be worthy of our audience to know? You have a great video on your website. I encourage people to go to the website, lifewise.org. Brandon on your staff gave me almost a 45-minute presentation, and it was chock full of really exciting stories, exciting things, and how this is set up. And again, this is doable, folks. It is happening in Indiana in at least a dozen schools, maybe more. But it needs to happen. I don't remember how many school corporations we have. I think it's over 300 in Indiana. But we have 92 counties. We have 1 million students. Kids need to learn character education. They need to learn the truth. And many of them will learn it this way before they'll ever step into a church to learn these things. So is there anything else that people can do to help support LifeWise?
Well, I would just want to clarify the concept, because sometimes I'll give a presentation at the end. Someone will raise their hand and they'll say, is this a before or after school program? And I'll say, no, you missed the most important point. And that is that we provide this during the school day. In fact, maybe this is one detail to mention. That's why we came out with this book, During School Hours, because we're genuinely able to teach the Bible as part of kids' regular school day. And to most people, it sounds crazy. It sounds illegal, but it's very possible. And now it's going to be happening for hundreds of schools. And we would love to connect with anybody who would like to get involved. And as you said, the website's the resource, right? We have a videos page, and you could binge, your whole afternoon just watching videos of examples, case studies of other communities. And then at the end of the day, find your way to the Find Your School page and get connected in your district.
One little question. How long is the release time? How long is the program typically? How long does it take for a child to go to the program during one day?
Yeah, great question. It is in the same way that a child will receive art class once a week for 45 minutes to an hour, or gym class once a week. It's similar that they can now have a Bible class that's once per week, 45 minutes to an hour. We will either walk students to an adjacent property, or we pick students up in a bus or a shuttle and take them to a nearby facility. Maybe it's a church, maybe it's a storefront. There's a lot of different options. But then it's usually on a rotation. So we have 1 or 2 classes at a time are released. Take them, teach them the Bible, bring them back. In fact, we have one community in Northwest Ohio. The elementary school there has 1,000 students. Our program, that LifeWise, has over 900 of them in the program. And so they have a full-size bus, and they pick up 2 classrooms at a time, 5 times a day, 5 days a week to rotate all 900 students. And they teach them at the YMCA down the road. And so whether it's a big school or a small school, any community can do it. And we know there are people in every community that want this to happen, that have the resources. It's just a matter of getting the word out.
Well, Joel, I'm so excited about this. I'm so glad that Brandon reached out and contacted me through a mutual friend at a Christian radio station up north at WFCV. Dale Gerke, the manager up there, is a friend of Jeff and mine for years. I'm so glad we came across your ministry. We'll be praying for you. I encourage people to pray for LifeWise Academy. Go to their website, check it out. Even if you don't have kids in the school or grandkids, I want you to learn more about this ministry. Pray for them, support them, tell others about them. And Joel, I'm just excited that you were able to join us today. I know you're very busy, but thank you for being on our show today. It means a lot to me, and we'll be praying for your ministry as well.
Micah and Jeff, thank you so much for having me on. It's an honor.
Thank you. Well, I'm Micah Clark again with the American Family Association. Hope you enjoyed our show today. Very exciting things happening out there. So many problems in public education we hear about. Here's a great solution. Here's a great answer that parents can get involved in. So it's LifeWise Academy, lifewise.org. Look them up, learn about them, support them. And again, thank you for joining us. Hope you enjoyed this video today. Hope you have a great weekend. And thank you for supporting American Family Association of Indiana.